What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the madness. Hope y'all had a good Valentine's Day. You know, if you don't have a significant other, we all know your true love is messing with these modules in the first place. So, today we're going to be talking about the Megatap delay, what it has to offer, how to tinker with it, what the parameters do, and how to get what you want out of it. So, without further ado, let's jump in. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Appreciate you coming in. The format for these tutorials hasn't changed much since I've really started. If you've got some recommendations, slap them in the comments below. Really appreciate the feedback. So, as always, I got notes here on the right, me on the top right, and then I've got the Axe Effects editor right here in the middle. So, today I'm not going to be using my guitar as a means to demonstrate the effect. I'm going to be using my voice, mostly as a means to change things up, keep you guys on your toes, and also my electric guitar is in the shop right now. I had to get a couple things done to it. But let's jump right into the module, huh? So when you first launch right into the Megatap module, usually you're going to be on type bounce unless you've already used this module before. There's two basic tabs. There's a basic tab, and there's a tap control tab where you're going to have more control over the individual taps. So in order to demonstrate these effects, I'm going to be using a single word and not talking as much because otherwise it's going to crowd the audio quite a bit. So let's just get right to it. Type bounce. 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 Adjust the master level. Bounce. 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 Delay time. 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 The number of taps is going to be determining how many times this thing is bouncing. Number of taps. 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 So you can see what the number of taps does. It increases the amount of delays that you're going to hit in this amount of time. So pre-delay, that's going to tell you how much time it's waiting before it starts delaying. Pre-delay. 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 Feedback. Feedback tap. So what's going on there? At what point is it going to start redirecting the signal in this delay? So I've got 32 taps, and they're, as you can see, relatively evenly spaced apart. They start to get more and more dense as you go to the right. However, at the 16th tap in here, you can just imagine right around here, 16th, it's going to start sending it back through. And that's why you heard it. It sounded like when it got to a certain point, it went back through and it started repeating itself again. I'll do that again just as demonstration. Feedback tap. And that's what that does. And now you've got the low and high cut frequencies, basically filters. If you want, you can go and see my demonstration and tutorial on the filters module up above, and that'll kind of get more in depth about what's going on with the filters and the types of filters you can use. It's much more useful than just simply having a low and high cut frequency controller, but most people know what low and high cut are. So down to the envelope. So what the envelope is doing, it's controlling the input gain to the Megatap. So when the threshold is off, obviously the Megatap envelope is not on. So I've set the attack time to 10,000 milliseconds so that I can demonstrate what this thing's actually doing. So if I turn this on, you're going to hear the delay. You're going to hear the delay. As I increase this threshold all the way up, if I put it to 0, nothing's coming through because my voice has to be at 0 dB in order to be registered in this envelope. And then basically everything that I'm saying is getting delayed by 10,000 milliseconds, which is longer than the delay exists for. As I reduce this to say 70, you're going to hear more delays. And if I drop this down to like you'll hear it again. And that's pretty much what this does. As you increase the threshold, the signal has to be louder to trigger it. When it's off, everything goes through. So now I'm going to start talking about the diffusion. This is a pretty cool part of this module because it basically allows you to put whatever effects you have ahead of the Megatap and smear those effects across the taps, right? So in here, I've only got 4 bounces right now. And when I turn it on, it's very obvious. Right? And if I go back over here, and I turn the diffusion up, you can hear everything get smeared. None of the taps are specifically noticeable. Now I'm going to start talking about the diffusion. This is a pretty cool part of this module because it basically allows you to put whatever effects you have ahead of the Megatap and smear those effects across the taps, right? So in here, I've only got 4 bounces right now. And when I turn it on, it's very obvious. Right? And if I go back over here, and I turn the diffusion up, you can hear everything get smeared. None of the taps are specifically noticeable. Diffusion time. This is going to be telling you how long the diffusion lasts. Start at 1%. Not much change. Increase it. As you get up to 50, 100, and then time warping. And then also there's a slight modulation going on in there. For now it's 0.1 hertz, and then the depth is 0%. So really, because the depth is 0%, there's not really much of a modulation. You increase the depth, you increase the rate to like 1 hertz. Now you can hear a little bit of a modulation. And that's what that does. So now we can go down to tap control, which is where most of the tinkering really begins. So if I increase the taps here, it's the same as increasing the taps out here. And then the pre-delay as well, same thing. But you get these alpha and randomize in the time and the amplitude portion here, as well as the pan. And then you've got these 2 shapes, right? And they all have these different, they both have the same menu, but they're within the amplitude and the pan. And I'll show you what that does. So if you increase the alpha, as I mentioned in the notes, you can kind of smush it to the right or smush it to the left. Now to kind of show what's going on here when I've got it just straight up in the center. 8 taps. Let's get rid of the diffusion real quick. Now if I turn it and smush it to the right, smush, smush to the right, smush to the right, kind of in the middle, a little bit more to the left, You can hear as you smush it to the left, the delays kind of get more prevalent as soon as you start talking. Now this whole view right here is basically in time, you know. Maybe the x-axis here is time, and then the amplitude on the y-axis if you're used to math. But then you can randomize, and randomize just basically adjusts the time a little bit so that things aren't exactly on time. So if you increase the number of taps, it becomes a little bit more obvious. If I smush it a little bit to here, randomize, kind of as you drop it, it brings things back into kind of a normal, ideal, time delays. As you increase the randomness, it pushes things around a little bit, right? Makes it more random. And you want to kind of use that sometimes in order to make it sound more realistic, because you can build reverbs out of this thing. So what I'm going to do now is just show you some things that you can do in order to kind of use this thing and mold some shapes here and see what it sounds like. So if I increase the taps to say 40, say 50, the pre-delay moves things over. 0 pre-delay keeps things all the way to the left. I'm going to leave it at 0 for a second. My alpha and my time, I want to smush things a little bit further to the right. Not by too much. I want to increase the randomness to about 15%. I want the shape to be a sine wave in the amplitude. As I move this amplitude or the alpha knob to the left, it increases the amount of taps to generate that sine shape. So as I go all the way down, there's more taps to generate that sine wave. And then all the way down to 0, which is every tap, but then there's nothing to show that there's an amplitude fluctuation. And as you do this, obviously you can see what's going on here. The randomness is going to adjust the amplitude that's used to make the sine wave shape. And as you can see, kind of generates that kind of shape. Now what's this sound like? Check. You can hear it off the bat. What? So that's what that's doing right now. Now if I change the pan, maybe to down up, you'll hear it shift from left to right, or right to left. I'm not entirely sure which one. Let's see. Go. If I increase the alpha, or increase it, check. 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 So that's what's kind of going on here. Now, if you want to kind of build a reverb per se, increase these taps quite a bit, right? Make some pre-delay. Put this thing to constant for a second. Put this thing to constant for a second. Change these alphas around a bit. If I put these to 50, it's going to keep things relatively similar. The pan, don't want to adjust that much, but if I do this, it'll slowly drop it down. Increase randomness a tad bit. Time, shift that a little bit over. Now this should sound sorta reverb-ish. Check. Increase the taps. Whoa. Kind of sounds like I'm in a cave. And that's just a basic idea of what you can do with the Megatap delays. You can create very custom delays. You can create very custom anything, really. And you can use these types to give you really good formats for what you want to do, right? I think Creaky's pretty cool. Check this out. Kind of emulates what a squeaking door in a horror movie would almost sound like. But that's just to give you a little idea of what this thing does and all the parameters. I recommend adjusting, messing with all these different types and, kind of dig into your creativity a little bit. But that's all for this one. If you enjoyed the video, slap like, slap subscribe, helps me out a lot. But I'll catch you on the next one. So till then, I'll catch you on the flippy floppy.